Now I'm going to start putting in the color of my sky. I'm going to work at the top for right now, which is sort of the bluer area. I'm not going to try to just mix one color and place it down smoothly. This might look smooth here, but Impressionism usually doesn't create just flat colors. The style of Impressionism has visible brush strokes, and it has something called optical mixing, where you have multiple colors placed next to each other that when you look up close you see the different colors, but when you back away from a distance, the viewer's eye blends them together. So whenever you're mixing color, don't use a big brush, use a small brush, otherwise it gets hard to mix the colors. I am going to start with blue, and it's much lighter, so I'm going to add some white. Now, the blue that you get in the container is a very cold blue. Think warm and cool colors. It's a very cool blue, and oftentimes skies, whether it is a sunset sky or even bright daylight skies, are actually warmer blues. So rather than using the pure blue and white, I don't want to make this purple, but I'm going to add a touch of red. So just a tiny bit of red, and I'm going to add that in. And notice that it does not make it violet. It doesn't even really make it blue violet, but it just, because red is a warm color, it warms up the blue slightly. Okay, so I'm going to try to have a variety of colors mixed. So I'm going to make a lighter version, an even lighter version, I'll even make, instead of using red to warm it up, I'll even make a version where I use a little bit of yellow to warm it up. So again, I'm not making green, but it's just a little bit of a varied version of blue. Okay, you want to just have a good variety of options. Now, when I go to place my colors, there's different ways that you can create your marks. So one way that you can do it is just small brush strokes of color. And then you add the different colors next to each other, slightly overlapping each other, so that you still see some of it, some of those variances. Now I want to go even lighter, looking at my picture. So as the top, it's a little bit darker, and then it gets a little bit lighter. So I can add some more whites. So that is using smaller brush strokes. I could, if I don't like the little smaller brush strokes, I could do more of a tapping. So you might prefer that kind of style. But it's the same idea where you tap the colors, you still have the variations in there. So you don't let it blur together. You do let it kind of stay as slightly separate colors. Another option is maybe longer brush strokes. You want to work far away to close up. So generally the further away sky comes first, and then the clouds would come next, and then any ground you do would come last. So let's imagine I filled in the rest of my sky and it's time to start my cloud. You're just going to continue it in the same style, but following the shapes and the colors that you see. So there are areas that I see some deeper violet, areas that maybe just are more blue, and maybe it's a little bit gray. So rather than just having white, maybe I add a little bit of black in there to get it gray. You start laying in the same sort of style. Maybe I'll, rather than just side to side, maybe it's too dark, I'll add some more whites in there. And look for where the lights and darks are. I also see a little hint of peach in there. So I'm going to mix that. Probably should get a second tin foil, but try to fit it in here. Notice how it's not exactly the same, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be the same. You're just getting, as we said, the impression of it, the idea of it. So don't worry about matching colors directly, but try to get the lights and darks in there. Let the paints sort of live without being over blended. So as you can see, I've been working a little bit more on this, and as I go down in each of the three styles, the same techniques are there. The same visible colors, visible brush strokes, letting the colors be there without overly blending. It just looks a little bit of a different effect. It's up to you. I actually have a whole bunch of paintbrushes that I'm sort of flipping back and forth. Ones that are the warmer colors, one of the cooler colors, so that way they don't get too muddy. And you just kind of keep working with it, and it takes time. And sometimes you might need to let it dry and then do a second layer once it's dry the next class, and just sort of add some extra details to it. So as you're getting started, just sort of get the idea of the colors and how you want to mix them, and pick your basic style that feels comfortable to you, and you may get started.